A blasphemous question that I'm going to ask all of you is that did Gege Akutami make a mistake by releasing Gojo too early? Now, I know a lot of you guys are major fans. A lot of you guys might even be haters, but let's kind of be wholesome, respectful, and have a little chat. Now, Chief, let me ask you, with Gojo being released early, what are the pros and cons? Actually, from his release, what have we noticed about the story of Jujutsu Kaisen?
Well, the story of Jujutsu Kaisen is already fast as it is. And now when Gojo got released, we literally sped through the whole month of November. And now we're in December 24th. And now we're seeing Gojo versus Sukuna. So the story has picked up rapidly ever since Gojo's release. Now, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Me personally, I would have preferred to see Gojo really take in the news of the Jujutsu Kaisen higher-ups, bringing in the news of if Gojo is being released, that's a criminal offense, or if Yuji is now has now a death sentence now, ever since Gojo got sealed away. So I would have loved to have seen in that month between November and December, before the fight between him and Sukuna, I would have loved to have seen him react to everything. But of course, we didn't get that. So that for me is a massive con. But on the plus side, we get to see Gojo again. Now, him being locked up for so long, are you telling me Gojo hasn't been doing any training? Have you seen how jacked up he's looking right now? Have you seen how hench he is now?
But you know what? He did address that. He did kind of allude to the fact that in the prison realm, time kind of is the same, but it isn't. We've not got as much details. And one of the main pain points that a lot of the fandom have is actually that they skip through the November to December little time between the initial release and to December 24th to the fight against Sukuna. Now, one thing I would say in support of Jujutsu Kaisen is, how do we know that they're not going to address that? How do we know that they are not going to expand on that throughout the fight, or probably even after the fight, or hopefully that's not the case, before the climax? So we have to give them the benefit of the doubt through our own patience, because we don't want to jump the gun a little too early. But I do reckon that they missed the boat on they missed a major opportunity by potentially longing out the distance, the time from his release to the fight. And I completely agree that it would be great to have seen how he interacts with the higher-ups and the news of what happened to Nanami, what happened to Nobara, etc, etc, etc. And I just feel like that was a potential 20-30 chapter run they could do, because we've been without Gojo for well over 2 and a bit years. I don't even know the exact number. It's something stupid and ridiculous. It was a meme. You had your own Twitter little page on that saying, let's count down the days that Gojo's been sealed. And I promise you that the fandom, the fans of Jujutsu Kaisen, would not have complained with Gojo having his ice cream the first time after being sealed, even though it's only been 19 or so days, wasn't it? When was he sealed?
He was sealed in chapter 89, I believe. 89 or 90, one of the two. But he's among those chapters early in the Shibuya incident arc. But the thing is, for me, with Gojo being released, I don't think us fans really soaked it in. That's my main point. Gojo being released after so long, surely we should have had at least minimum 5 to 10 chapters of just understanding and really coming into the realization that, Gojo is back now. Now we can actually plan and progress. This is what I really wanted to see. I really want to see Gojo plan. Because Gojo, the guy, he knows everything. The guy, when he uses Infinity Void on anyone, that person gets to have all the information in the history of humanity. So by that logic, you would assume that Gojo is a genius. And Gojo, to be fair, is a genius in the way that he has adapted his fighting style ever since he lost that round against Toji. So I would love to have seen the brain of Gojo in action. I would love to have seen him plan ahead on how he's going to combat Kenjaku and Sukuna. Because Kenjaku, as we've seen, is the planner, and Sukuna is the muscle. And Gojo is like a good fusion between the two. Gojo, I would assume is a planner, because the way, remember Jujutsu Kaisen 0, in the way he got Panda and Yamaki all right, fair enough, he was last minute second, lastminute.com, but he did still manage to clock on that Geto was back at Tokyo High looking for Yuta. So I just want to see him plan. You get where I'm coming from.
We did kind of see him plan, because with him, Shoko and Ko, they planned the 200% or 120%, whatever, the increased output for his hollow purple technique to be a surprise attack on Sukuna. I guess what you're trying to say is that you want to see more, right?
Yeah, no, so that's all great. Like we can see Gojo doing that, and that's more of like a literally on the day kind of plan. I'm talking about like long term planning. Like look at how Kenjaku planned the whole Shibuya incident, the October 31st. Way 2-3 arcs before that. I want to see stuff like that from Gojo, because I think Gojo has got the brain and the potential to do that. I don't want to just relegate him to just he's the last minute hero. Like,
we're not shitting on Gojo. Just want to let you know there's no negative aspect on Gojo. And one thing I would say to counter some of the points earlier is that him being a last minute guy, maybe that shows exactly how impressive he is, exactly how, wow, this guy is, he only needs the last second to really plan, whereas other people might need a few days, a few months, a few years, decades in Kenjaku's case. And when it comes to Sukuna and Kenjaku being the muscle and the brain, I think that is also disingenuous, because Sukuna has his own motives and Kenjaku has his own motives. Sukuna is extremely smart, but what I will say is that the two parties are aligned by a promise that we don't know yet. However, they're not friends. Whereas Gojo has his students and such, and as a team, they could really collaborate and really think of a disgusting plan to get rid and defeat Sukuna.
That's all I wanted to say. That's basically it. I just wanted to see Gojo just plan with his students how they're going to take down both of these guys. That's my main thing. Now, of course, the pros, I want to see Gojo unleash his new abilities. In chapter, 224, we did manage to see Gojo more or less dominate Sukuna. And so they were going back and forth, but it was cool seeing Gojo just be his overpowered self, you know? Sometimes you just want to see an overpowered character just be an overpowered character. So that was great to see. It's like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta when he was fighting against Omega Shenron. You enjoy seeing that dominance by a character sometimes. So that is a plus. And another plus that can potentially happen is, what if Sukuna does end up killing Gojo? Now, the stakes that and the hype that will happen if Sukuna does end up killing Gojo. Now, I love Gojo, but if Sukuna does end up killing Gojo, can you imagine what's going to happen to the story? Like, the characters and anyone who goes up against Sukuna, you will feel that dread for that character, because Sukuna just defeated Gojo. We're like, Yuji, are you stronger than Gojo? Can you match Sukuna? That's the hype that's going to happen if Sukuna does end up killing Gojo. And who knows? I think that there's a chance that might actually happen. What do you think?
Ultimately, I think that is the reason why it was not a mistake to unseal Gojo, because the story desperately was crying out for Gojo. As they said, Satoru Gojo, please return to us. Look, with Megumi being taken over, being broken, Yuji being broken, defeated, Kenjaku going crazy, there was no chance, there was literally no realistic in-universe chance of them being able to defeat a Sukuna who has taken over Megumi's body with access to the 10 shadow techniques, a Kenjaku who is just running rampant and utilizing the culling game to his whim. So I don't think it was a mistake that Gojo was released, whether it was a missed opportunity to prolong his release, to prolong the distance between Gojo's release and the fight, that's one thing. And also with chapter 225, we also know that, Gojo's an overpowered character, but he really can't exercise his authority or his dominance as easily as we may have thought, especially knowing that Sukuna's domain expansion is so advanced that it doesn't have an enclosure. Therefore, that's why we had the climax of 225 with Gojo's throat being slit. Now, is that the end? We don't know. But ultimately, I reckon that with his release, they just need to make sure that it doesn't feel rushed, and they really need to capitalize and prolong this fight as much as possible and make it worthwhile. We've been waiting for so long for this fight. So if I were to tell you 1 year ago, or whenever it was, the day after he was sealed, can you wait for Gojo? And you're like, no, I can't, I want him back. Because a lot of people might say the story did dip in quality or its must readability with Gojo's absence. But now that Gojo's back, are we being hypocrites? Because everyone was begging and aching for Gojo to return. But now with him returning, is he only returning just to leave us again? And with leaving us again, that would be via the defeat at the hands of Sukuna.
Exactly. Take care, Gojo.
Try not to die. But yeah, comment down below. We do want this to be a more of an interactive chat. At the same time, be respectful, because there are two camps here. You really wanted Gojo back, and now some might be like, maybe he came back a bit too early. Hindsight is 2020, and obviously our thoughts and views will change in the near future or post this fight, and we can really have a proper look after it's concluded. But with that being said, help us to 10k. If you've stayed this long, we really do appreciate you, and share us and join the Shaman tribe.